It sounds to me, because there's this epidemic of depression, anxiety, suicide, mental health disorders. Then there's also coupled with this divisiveness, this otherness, this separation, whether it's political, racial, gender, and so it seems like we have a left side dominance that is kind of causing all sorts of issues. And is that accurate? I mean,
Yeah.
depression and anxiety are stuck in the future and the past, is on that loop of fear, regret, resentment, guilt, shame, etc.
Right.
Or anticipating a worst case scenario in the future. You're stuck in linear time.
Right.
And how do we cultivate more of the balance and bringing that right brain? I mean, your book covers so much. You even do this like brilliant sociological breakdown of the generations and their personality traits and which characters are dominant in their for the last 100 years, like
Right.
from World War, one babies to, Gen Y now, or Z, or wherever we are now.
Right.
So is it, how do we come back and bring more I mean, it just seems to be like we all have the tools. We just need
Right.
now the roadmap to
Right.
turn on and activate and do less left hemisphere thinking and feeling and more right hemisphere thinking and feeling.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. We have been skewed to the left. And it really was the boomers, and I'm a boomer, so I can say this, but it's the boomers. We were taught that we can be anything. And our parents were, World War II people, and they saved the planet for us. And then we won, so that we're speaking English. And they started building a society, but they themselves were very balanced between their two hemispheres because they had family values. And even though they were building an economy with their left brains, they were family based values, and the world that they were building was in balance with the family value of keeping that family together. And then as the boomers came on, we were trained, we can have anything, we can do anything, we can be anything. And then we started really grasping into the external value of things. And so we wanted more money, we wanted the bigger house, we wanted the boat, we wanted to win the trip. We were willing to put in 60 to 80 hours a week and wear those dark eyes, as our badge of honor. And that was how we shifted into this real serious value structure of the external world, where the value structure of our parents was much more balanced with the family values, and we come from our hearts, and we build a world where the boomers just kind of flew off into the left brain. So now we're in this world where we are skewed to the value structure of the left. And the structure of the left is hierarchical. So I know where I am on that ladder. You know where you are on that ladder, under 100 different categories, and we're all climbing, trying to throw you off the ladder because I want your position. So competition comes in, and all these other parts of ourselves. And then it's like, well, how do I self promote myself more than you promote yourself? And it becomes about I, me, mine, and my family, and my team, and my tribe, and my political party. And we've just skewed ourselves at a value structure in this country, so that we don't even recognize, one another. So I think that I think the timing of this book is really perfect because of the pandemic. We have been pushed off the ladders and pushed into our houses. And so people are now reflecting and looking at their lives a little bit differently. Parents have had more time with their kids. Partners have had more times with partners. People are looking at their lives very differently than they did before. People are moving out of the big cities and spattering into the countrysides. So the world has shifted. And I think that the more we focus on what is best for our community, how do we rebuild community, and community is now becoming so important. So I think that this kind of material where people learn who is that then, and what does it mean for me to have these right brain skills, what does it value, and it values the we, while the left brain values the me and I and
Mhm.
mine, and those are completely different levels of consciousness. So, to me, I'm an educator, so I'm an academic, and to me, education about our brain, and the beauty of this material, I think, is it's the first paradigm that takes the neuroanatomy of the brain and marries the psychology that the anatomy produces. So it's not just another idea. No, it is anatomically based. We each have two emotional systems, and we have two thinking systems. And that's why we experience inner conflict, because if part of me is saying I want to take that new job because I'm going to make a lot more money, and I got to move, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and my right hemisphere is saying, I want my kids to be happy, and my kids are happy and they feel safe in this environment. And so that to me is worth that instead of making that extra money. So when we have those kinds of inter-emotional internal conflicts, it's because they're actually two separate modules of cells with different values. And I think as soon as we understand that, it really starts helping us better understand the anatomy of the choices we're making. And we will make better choices in order to live the life we want to live.
Amen. Yeah, you say a healthy society is made up of healthy brains in communication with one another. A healthy brain is made up of healthy cells that are in communication with each other. So if we can
Exactly.
learn that cellular, it's the micro and the macro.
Yes.
And so for things like, I'm now looking at these mental health disorders in a whole new light. Kids are ADHD, depression, anxiety, and I know it has to do with technology and this introduction to technology and this, there's so much to be said, but I'd love your take. Like, can you now, like something like OCD, is it just your character two is stuck in a loop or something? Do you look at it as characters or?
So when you look at the severe mental illnesses, it's not it's not so much even normal health, normal mental health is based on the four characters.
Got it.
So, but something like OCD is a group of cells that are on loop. And so it's like, did I check that lock? Did I check that lock? Did I check that lock? So that's an extreme case. Depression, chronic depression is also an extreme case because there are a lot of different reasons for depression. We might have a group of cells inside of our brain that are not active. And that's generally in the right hemisphere. If they're not active, then we can really move into a real chronic clinical depression. I may be depressed because I just, had a death in my family, or something has happened. So a circumstantial. So this, and then schizophrenia is a cellular issue. Multiple personality is a cellular issue that we don't really understand. Not that we really understand schizophrenia, but we do much more than multiple personality. So I do want to say that as we're talking about these four characters, this is very different, completely different from multiple personality disorder, which is a pathological problem at the level of the cells. But I think that as we look at depression, or we look at society, or we look at drug addiction, alcoholism, when we look at any of that, we do know where the craving cells are inside of the insular cortex, which is deep inside of that character 2 circuitry. So in the book, there is actually a chapter that is dedicated to what is an addiction at the level of the brain, and and I compare that. How do we rescue ourselves using the four characters? And I compare that also to the 12-step program of AA. And ultimately, it turns out to be the same steps at the level of the brain as the hero's journey. So, to me, this brain is just this incredible masterpiece, and things that work, behaviors that work because it's having an impact on the circuitry of our brain. And some things we can relate directly back to what's going on with these four characters, and how do I use the information of the four characters to change my behavior or my relationship, even with a drug, when I understand which character is engaged in that addiction. And when people actually rescue themselves from an addiction, what's going on in the other characters of their brain. So the book is really kind of all over the map on these kinds of subjects. But I really feel like my Stroke of Insight, the first book that I wrote, was had to be written because here you had a brain scientist who had a stroke and rebuild her brain. Okay, that was big news. We can rebuild our brain. Great. We're capable of recovering. But I truly feel like this book is the reason why I survived and the gift that I am supposed to bring to the world. I just love this material.
I love it too. And you say it's all over the map, but you hit on like the most profound and important topics. I mean, you talk about how to, for intimate relationships, it's kind of like the love languages, but from the neuroanatomical standpoint of the four
Exactly.
characters.
Yeah.
And it
As
just
well
gives,
as well as health and our relationship with our body. I love that chapter because each of the four characters has a different relationship with our body and views our ability to heal our body differently. So, for people who actually do successfully find healing, which part of their brain are they using, and which parts of their brain are they making sure are not getting in the way of us healing ourselves? Because the little character too, for me, she's the little doubter, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've got a problem, and da 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 da. So the fear becomes so big that I can't wrap my arms around the mere concept that I could heal from this. And then I go further and further, and when a character too is looking for negative in the world to support its own negativity, it's going to find it everywhere. But so is our holy character four, the part of ourselves that feels like gratitude inside of our cell and is open to all the possibilities of healing as a reality. And what do I need to do in order to set myself up as a character four to be open to the possibility of letting that positive healing energy come and help me heal? How do I work with that? And then how can my character one come online and really say, I need to pay attention and find that balance. And if I'm work, and I'm hooked into my stress circuitry of my left brain with my character one and character two, that's only going to fuel an illness inside of me. So it's all these four characters and their interplay and the relationship in who and how do I want to be under different circumstances.
Thank you for listening to the Heal podcast. Be sure to tune in for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. Oh, and make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And if you feel inspired, we would love you to rate and review us so that we have the opportunity to reach more people. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram for some behind the scenes fun and more inspiration at @Heal Documentary and @Kelly Gores. Thank you so much and be well.